Welcome to cooking school. On this episode, we are going to be making banana pudding with whipped cream. Your ingredients you'll be needing are vanilla, milk, vanilla wafers, powdered sugar, salt, cornstarch, granulated sugar, heavy whipping cream, eggs, yolks only, but we'll go over that, butter, and bananas. This recipe requires egg yolks only. So we're going to demonstrate how to separate an egg. You take your egg, lightly tap it on the inside of the bowl. My garbage is right here next to me because I'm not going to be cooking with these egg whites. So I'm just going to split my egg over the garbage, and the white is going to fall directly out of my fingers. I literally just opened my hand like this and the egg white fell into the trash can. And I'm going to do it one more time. You can save your egg whites and have like an egg white omelet or something, but that's totally your call. Today I do not need my egg whites. So again, I just held it in my hand, split my fingers open, and the egg whites fell directly out of the yolk, or off the yolk, into the trash can. We're going to lightly beat these and set them aside for later in the recipe. We are using a 2-quart saucepan, and we have our sugar, cornstarch, and salt in our pan, or in our pot. We are going to stir this around to mix it together, and we're going to slowly add our milk over medium heat. So we're just going to stir this together, and I have my milk already measured out and my eggs already measured out for this as well, because this process will be slow, but once it gets going it'll be very quick. So you want to have all of your ingredients ready to go. So we mixed all that together, and I'm slowly going to pour my milk in. My burner is turned on to a medium heat, and I'm just going to mix this together, and you're going to stand here and constantly stir this. I've been standing here for about 10-15 minutes because we have to constantly stir. You can see that the mixture has gotten thicker. It's also coated my spoon, and I've been dragging my spoon along the bottom so you can see that it's thickened on the bottom as well. You want to make sure that you touch the bottom of the pot while you stir, because you'll have a layer burnt to the bottom of your pan. So make sure that you stir all the way to the bottom of your pot to make sure that you get all those good milky cornstarchy bits up off the bottom, and we're just constantly stirring. You can see it's thicker, and we're almost to that stage, probably about another 5 minutes or so. You can see that our mixture is thickened and it's starting to boil. We'll leave it on for a second so you can see it starting to bubble, but you can see it starting to thicken, how it drips off and how it's stuck on the spoon. And you can see if I let it go just for a second, you see it starting to boil. We're going to let it cook just for another minute, continuing to stir so that you do not burn the bottom of your pot with the milk. So we're going to let it boil and thicken up for 1 more minute. So our mixture has boiled for 1 minute. We are going to temper our egg yolks that we separated earlier, leaving this on the heat. So we're going to take a ladle, and we are going to ladle gradually at least half of the mixture into our yolks, and you're just going to stir into your yolk the hot liquid. This is so that you do not cook your eggs. It gradually gets to the temperature that they need to be to, and not quickly cooking them. And you can see that they're not cooked, they're still nice and smooth. We're going to add at least 1 more ladle, maybe 2, and stir this together, and then we're going to add this back to our pot over the heat, and then we're going to continue to stir and cook that for another minute. Now be careful, this mixture is very hot. I do not suggest using a glass or metal bowl for this because you will burn your hand. So I'm going to move my ladle and I'm going to use my rubber spatula I was using earlier. And we're just going to stir all this back together. And you can take your rubber spatula and clean your bowl. Get all those good bits of the egg and a mixture out, and then we're going to let this boil for 1 more minute before we add our eggs, or I'm sorry, our butter and our vanilla. So make sure you get all that stirred to incorporate. And then we're going to remove it from the heat and add our vanilla and butter. We are adding our butter and vanilla off the heat. We moved off from the burner over to the counter. I'm not directly on the counter. I am on a trivet so that the heat is not damaging my counter. And we're just going to stir in the butter and vanilla. Until it's all the butter is melted and everything is incorporated. Our butter is melted and we've stirred in our vanilla and our butter all the way in. It's all the way incorporated. At this stage you can either put it into your serving containers, Daisy's excited for that, and put them into your fridge to let them cool down. We're actually going to let this get to room temperature and assemble our banana pudding. We have been letting our pudding cool in the back over here on our trivet. I've stirred it a couple times to kind of let the heat from the bottom rise to the top to keep it to keep everything evenly cooled. We have put a couple of our wafers in the bottom of our 8-inch square pan. We're going to show you how to cut a banana. I know this sounds like, we're cutting a banana, but we're going to show you how to. I like to cut off the tip, or the stem part, and then the root part, whatever you want to call it, so the top and the bottom. And then very carefully you can place it on your cutting board. Take your knife and slice down the center of the banana and peel it. And you can also just peel it like normal if you don't feel comfortable using a knife to do that. Just go ahead and peel it like you normally would. This just makes it a lot more even for me to cut. So we have our banana here. You want the chunks or the pieces to be about the thickness of your wafer or a little bigger. You don't want huge chunks, you don't want the paper thin chunks. And you can also cut them on the diagonal as well. So we're just going to use our knife and watch your fingers and just slice up your banana. You can slice all of it at one time, or you can slice it in segments and put it in your pan. We're basically going to put one piece of banana on each of our wafers. If you want to get creative, you can cut the wafers to put more in the bottom of your pan, just however you want to do it. This is kind of, there's no right or wrong way to do banana pudding when you assemble it. So we're just going to continue to cut and put our bananas in our pan. And then when we get all of this done here, we will show you how to pour your pudding over top, and then we'll repeat our steps. I'm just stirring this around to make sure that the heat comes evenly out. It's still kind of warm, but that's okay. We have layered our wafers and our bananas in the bottom of our pan, and we're just going to pour enough of our pudding to cover that layer. Okay, and we can just take our spoon or our spatula and just kind of even it out over the top. And then we are going to take our wafers again and put them on top of our banana pudding, or our pudding layer. So we're just going to assemble this like this, and then we're going to cut our bananas and lay them on top and then put more pudding. We have done our first layer of vanilla wafers and bananas and then pudding, and now we've done our second layer of vanilla wafers, bananas, and we're going to put our pudding on. You can do as many layers as your pan will fit, or as many as ingredients you have. It just kind of depends on what you want to do, and I would suggest ending with the pudding, and then we're going to top it with whipped cream. So I may not have enough ingredients to do a whole nother layer. We're going to see here in a second. We want to spread this to the sides of the pan to cover all of our good little bits inside and make it kind of even. And if you can see, I'm just kind of moving it around. I'm not really putting too much pressure on it because it will shift before it's set. And I don't have enough ingredients to do another layer. So we're just going to put all this pudding right on top and zhuzh it around again. And then we will put it in the fridge, and right before we serve it, we'll top with whipped cream and decorate the top with some crushed wafers and some very nice sliced bananas. We have 2 layers of wafers, bananas, and pudding, and then wafers, bananas, and pudding. We're going to cover our pan with plastic wrap and refrigerate for at least 1 hour or until it's completely chilled through, and then we'll show you the finished product with some whipped cream and decorations on top. We're making whipped cream with our stand mixer, our whisking attachment, and our bowl to the electric mixer. We left our heavy whipping cream in the fridge for our whipped cream. We left it in the fridge until the last second, until we put it straight in. We also put our bowl and our whisk attachment in the freezer for about 10 minutes so everything is nice and cold, and we will get the best volume out of our whipping cream. We've also added our 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar and our teaspoon of vanilla to the bowl. We're going to turn it on high speed and let it whip until soft peaks form. We've stopped our mixer, and when I push the beater into the whipping cream, you can see that it's formed a soft peak. You can actually go just a smidge longer if you'd like. Don't go too much longer because you'll over whip it. But if you would like a thicker or a harder peak than a soft peak, you can just go a little longer. But that's a soft peak, and that's whipping cream. We have removed our banana pudding that we covered and put in the fridge. We've now removed it from the fridge. So we're going to take the saran wrap off of it, and you can save that for later or discard it. We are going to now take our whipped cream that we've whipped to soft peaks, and we are going to gently kind of just pour it over top of the banana pudding. And we're going to spread this around like we did the pudding earlier, all the way to each side and the corners of the pan. And this looks so good. I love banana pudding. This is one of my favorite desserts. So we just lightly, you can actually like make a little peak so it's not so uniform. Just kind of put your spatula flat and then pull it up. Then we are going to take a couple of vanilla wafers. You can take 1 at a time or 2 at a time, whichever your hand will do. And we're just going to crush it with our fist. And sprinkle it over the top for a garnish, if I can get it to crush. If you need to, you can also put this in a Ziploc bag and crush it with a rolling pin or a pan. But it's not a whole lot, so if you can crush it with your fingers, it works. And there we go, that looks good. Make sure you have clean hands when you do that too. Now we're going to take another banana, because we used all the banana in our pudding. So we're going to take a new banana and we are going to slice this all pretty. As pretty as you can get it. It doesn't have to be that pretty, but just cut it on a deep angle. And you want them a little thicker than what you cut for the inside of your pudding, just so they stand up on the pan very nicely. So we're going to take about 4 or 5 slices. I'm going to try and do this. We'll see how it turns out. Welcome to Tip Talk. This is where we talk tips about banana pudding with whipped cream. Today we made our vanilla pudding for the banana pudding from scratch. You want to make sure that you bring your milk to room temperature, otherwise it will take longer on the stove to get to the consistency that you need it to finish your pudding. If you can't bring it to room temperature before, that's totally okay. Just know that it'll take you a little longer. Be patient while you are cooking with it on the stove. When you temper eggs, you're bringing the hot liquid a little bit at a time into the egg yolks to slowly bring the yolks to the same temperature as the cooking liquid to not cook your eggs. We used pretty green bananas in our banana pudding assembly. That's okay. I actually tried this today. You can take your green bananas, put them in a paper bag, fold the paper bag down tightly, and put it in a warm place. We put mine in the laundry room, and it actually brought them from a very green state to a semi-green state. You need to do this 12 to 24 hours in advance, and you will have perfect bananas every time from that green place. For your whipped cream, you can take your mixing bowl and whisk and put them in the freezer for about 10 minutes until they're cold to the touch. You can also measure out your heavy cream into that bowl before you put it in the freezer so that everything is nice and cold together. Do not leave the whipping cream in the freezer longer than 10 minutes because you will freeze it and then you have to bring it to room temperature before you whip it. If you do not do this process, it's totally okay. It will just take a little longer for you to get to that soft peak stage during the whipping process. We hope that you enjoy your banana pudding as much as we do. It's my husband's and mine favorite desserts. Thanks for joining us on Cooking School. See you next time.